The traditional Muslim claims that the word zakat in the Quran means to pay a specific annual tax of 2.5% in order to purify oneself. The majority of Muslims subscribe to the same theory without questioning the authenticity. But who better to ask than the one who sent the message? I honestly could care less about 99% of the masses and what they do. I'll always take side of the truth versus the unverified knowledge that's been passed on. So the information that I'll be providing is the same information that God has provided and can be verified at a Quran near you. The only verse that's located in the Quran with the noun zakat occurs in an adverbial phrase and outlines how you should give, not what you should give. This is found in chapter 30, verse 39, and it states, "But what you give in zakat, desiring the approval of God, it is He who will give manifold increase." The act of giving should be for the purpose of desiring God's approval. We see this many times in the Quran, and also there are many examples, stories, and comparisons in the Quran where the believers are warned of a possible effect of giving with other intentions. But when carefully studying God's words, which we never do, we find that there's no direct connection between giving in a casual sense, aka the traditional Muslim understanding of zakat. When we're looking at the verb ata, which comes right before the noun zakat, you find that ata is considered a weak verb that can be used according to traditional Muslim scholars in many ways. But to the uneducated Muslims out there, they only see the way that their forefathers have shown them. I find it extremely arrogant for any Muslim to defend what they have been spoon-fed when their own scholars wouldn't even agree with what they're saying. Ata has been accepted by scholars to have two meanings, but one is more widely accepted. That doesn't mean, just because it's widely accepted, that it is the truth. I don't see Muslims around the world keeping an open mind to their own scholars and what their own scholars are saying about how it could have two meanings. They have adapted the mainstream view, and because they don't verify or research, they have just taken that and ran with it. So we have our scholars and we have our dictionary that tells us that ata could have two meanings. But the arrogance, the lack of willingness to learn, and the ignorance of men has led us to speak out as if there was only one meaning, even though our scholars say otherwise. So knowing this, our duty should be to compare both meanings across the Quran and see how they fit. A procedure called pantextual analysis or common sense. Now this is important because the form 3 of the verb means to favor or to be fit, and the form 4 means to pay or to give. And between them we have a weak verb which the best traditionalists and the Arabic grammar are not able to decide which of these two work best. But asking the average traditional Muslim with zero education, they'll tell you that zakat means a tax or a form of charity, not understanding that the verb ata that comes before it plays a huge role in dictating its actual meaning. They also don't know that their own Muslim scholars and the Arabic grammar are not able to decide whether it means to pay and give or to favor and be fit. And now it's clear that traditional Muslims have favored the form 4 verb over the form 3 verb. But what makes it worse is that even though scholars have left this discussion open for two potential options, if a Muslim was to pick the least mainstream option, they are considered an outcast, mostly due to the overall Muslims not having any understanding that there's two potential meanings. So assuming that ata zakat means to pay money, their expectation of zakat is a yearly tax, a position found nowhere in the Quran. So now, because they can't find it in the Quran, they are obligated to break God's command of following no one but Him and depend on man-made hadiths to fill in that gap and explain to them how much zakat they are supposed to pay. The correct method should be to come to the Quran, the message that God sent that is fully detailed and fully explained, and question it on the basis of the patterns that are present, and look for a Quranic definition. Create some sort of workable, meaningful conclusion using one's intellect, not using the dependency of other men, which are on equal playing fields as us, that will also be equally judged one day. When handling something so delicate like one's afterlife, we should never put all of our hope in big-bearded men that will also be questioned on their actions, especially when God has said man was created weak, when God Himself said that His message is sufficient, clear, and fully explained. It would be wrong to go and ask man when God's message is clear. One can reasonably and rationally conclude, based on Badawi Halim's own observations that ata zakat may equally mean to favor purity or to befit purity. Here are 11 reasons why ata zakat does not mean to give charity. Number one, the non-sectarian dictionary definition of zakat is purity, sincerity, and integrity, and does not amount to any specific annual tax. And you can validate this yourself by opening the dictionary and seeing it yourself. There are parts in the Quran where this noun is used and can only be used and understood as the definition given in the non-sectarian dictionary, and wouldn't make any sense to say that it's an annual tax. In Surah Al-Kahf 1881, in Surah Maryam chapter 19 verse 13, a point with traditional Muslims also agree that this verse in no way can mean to give a yearly tax of 2.5%. It just does not fit. We have handpicked which verses that we want to use to derive the meaning of zakat as charity. And when it becomes impossible for it to mean charity, we turn our heads as if nothing happened. Number three, nowhere does the traditional Muslims' value of their noun ata zakat or the position of ata zakat find support in the Quran under the claim that it must refer to a tax, supported with zero proof. But if you dare question them, you are disowned by your family, exiled from the faith, and you're gone. Number four, the Quran nowhere applies indirect objects to ata zakat. For example, ata zakat of 2.5% to so-and-so from so-and-so. Doesn't happen. Number five, not only do traditional Muslims claim a specific tax not found in the Quran, it contradicts existing Quranic ayahs, namely that material giving is by free will, in an amount to be chosen and decided upon by the giver. Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 verse 219. The only occasion in which the verb to give, ata, and zakat occurs together with a clear indirect object is with the Prophet Yahya, who is given zakat by God in Surah Maryam chapter 19 verse 12 and 13. So unless God cut the Prophet Yahya a check of 2.5% that year, something ain't right. God enjoined as zakat upon Isa in Surah Maryam chapter 19 verse 31. It's not possible to argue convincingly that an infant is capable of paying anything to anybody. On this basis, it's clear that the term ata zakat, along with many other words, have been misused, misplaced, and mistakenly translated. And that's the result of using books like hadiths to tell you what God himself is saying. He is the only one that we should be worshiping, and he is the only one that we should rely on. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. I mean, if you guys are following the religion, follow it properly. Why are you relying on man? Then wonder why the foundation of Islam is based on things God never spoke of. So to summarize, to say that ata zakat means to give a charity is to give a value nowhere found in the Quran, resulting in an actual loss of the true meaning of zakat. So the word tazkiyah or zakah, according to God, is the removal of that which is harmful, not a specific 2.5 annual tax nowhere found in the book, the principle of which contradicts the context of numerous verses in the Quran. To save you guys a little bit of time, because we know you're lazy as shit, I have left everybody the references on the bottom of how many times zakat has been mentioned, so please go ahead and do your own due diligence and verify it yourself. So tazkiyah or zakah is the removal of that which is harmful. So that's the definition of the universal word of zakat. And because you can zaki anything, it can be in relation to anything. But God uses it more specifically in relation to human beings. We are the thing that can receive and give zakat. Keep in mind that the word has a universal meaning and other specific meanings. So when we look at Surah Al-Jumu'ah, هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا, he's the one who has sent in the unlettered a message bearer. منه يتلو عليهم آياته, of them will recite to them our ayahs. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمْ الْكِتَابُ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. So yuzakihim here is to remove the impurities or that is wrong. Of what though? What is he talking about? Which means when you give the ayahs, yuzaki. And it is then when you take away all that allows for the laying out or the laying down of understanding of al-kitab. That is what purifying is. So it means that whatever knowledge you had previously needed to be removed, and that will facilitate the understanding of al-kitab wal-hikmah. So for example, let's say I was really confused about this Trinity thing. So now that I read the Quran, I find that God said Jesus is like Adam. He spoke a word and he said be and he was. And then I started wondering why Jesus himself in the book claimed that he was a man, and he never took the claim that he was a God or the Son of God. He actually even told the disciples that he was man and he was a prophet. After thinking about it for a little bit and contemplating, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. So now that I've read the Quran, I look back at the Trinity and I'm trying to make sense of it. Well, maybe Jesus is just human. This here is called tazkiyah, or the form of practicing zakat. It has replaced the old misinformation that you've been fed all your life with the truth. That is a form of zakat. Now you can lay down the foundation of knowledge properly by purifying the old information with what is the truth. In relation to God's book, you need tazkiyah always before you get the understanding of al-hikmah, which means to have a better understanding of what is coming, you need to purify one's mind from the corrupt inheritance of man-made lies and make room for God's truth, to let go of the old and leave room for the new. So zakat is like taking away the bad habits and the unverified knowledge and replacing it with what is pure, to purify the old unverified for the new verified. When the Spirit came to Maryam, it said, Kalla innama ana rasulu rabbiki. I am he who is sent as a messenger from your Lord. Laki ghulaman zakiyya. I'm going to give you something purified. Zakiyya, zakat, tazkiyah. You get where we're going here? Now, when you zaki somebody, you're removing all the impurities and anything that will make that person look bad by simply speaking words. Alam tara illa allazina yuzakkuna anfusahum. Can't you see those that are doing zakat to themselves? Bal Allah yuzakki man yasha'u. But zakat comes from God. So somebody either was doing it through the book by speaking God's words, or through the Spirit sent to them by God. So when God said, Alam tara illa allazina yuzakkuna anfusahum, he never said yuzakku anfusahum. He said yuzakkuna anfusahum. So God is the one doing the purification, not us doing the purification. Or God would have said, allazina yuzakku anfusahum, not yuzakkuna anfusahum. Whenever the noun is added, it speaks of God. Allazina yu'minuna bil ghayb. Ala Allah yatawakkal al-mutawakkilun. Every noon refers back to him. Knowing this leaves us with who God is really targeting by using these letters. For those that don't know, now you know. All right, guys, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Share the damn video. Either way, show some love. God bless. Peace.